What's up, guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking and reviewing and discussing Channel Zero Season 3 Butcher's Block Episode 4, titled Alice in Slaughterland. Now I'm going to try and keep this one as short as possible because I can't stop coughing and it's really going to affect this video. If it's going to be over like 15 minutes, I'm going to try and keep it short. So this episode basically revealed what was behind the door and the stairway, and it's a lot different than what I expected. I expected it to be very macabre and dark and something like you'd seen in Silent Hill, but it was actually a field of flowers and tulips, I think they were, and there's a house in the middle. And it was, it was very bright and colourful, which is completely different to what we've seen from the rest of the season. It's been very bleak, and there's been like rusty playground, park rides, and it's just been very like dull. But now it's very bright in this episode, which was a change. So I'm not sure if that's because it's in a different realm or something like that. So a lot of the episode did take place in this realm beyond the door with all the sunflowers and whatever those plants were. But there was also some flashbacks to a few years before when we see Alice and Zoe when they're back home. These were the more character building parts of the episode where we get to see Zoe have a proper mental breakdown for once, which is something we haven't really seen. We've heard about how bad it is and the things she's done, but in this episode she kind of goes crazy and just accuses the neighbour of stalking him and stuff, and it's just an awkward scene to watch, but it's very powerful for us to get a grasp of what's actually going on with Zoe and how it affects everyone around her, which was pretty bad to see because everyone just watched her in the streets, and I thought that was a powerful way to do it. So beyond the door in this realm, the episode is called Alice in Slaughterland, and there is tons of references to Alice in Wonderland, especially with the main girl being called Alice. So we see a lot of things. We see Joseph basically representing the Mad Hatter, the way I think it's got an umbrella. I'm not sure if the Mad Hatter has that, but he was giving off the vibes of the Mad Hatter to me. The grumpy gardener guy who was out there making puzzles and rhymes. It reminded me of Gollum in The Hobbit for some reason. And we saw that Joseph and the gardener guy were also growing crops out of the ground, but the crops were human limbs, mostly hands. And they kept saying they weren't good enough, so I'm kind of assuming that they're growing these crops to eat and to please whatever is in charge of them, because we find out that Joseph might not be fully in charge of this thing that's going on, and we can only assume that it's the meat monster who's the one controlling them. He's possibly the one who's given them this eternal life, and in return you probably have to sacrifice people, which is why everyone's been going missing. Another segment of the episode focuses on Louise and Luke, and they take Robert's body back to Louise's house and they try and dismantle it in the basement. Now, I've just seen Reanimator for the first time a few days ago, and I'm glad I did, because this whole basement scene reminded me just of the Reanimator. Robert comes back to life and they actually kill him with a shovel, and this just straight up reminded me of the death of Dr. Hill in Reanimator. And what the hell was that thing that Louise was wielding when she chopped off his head? It was like garden shears mixed with a chainsaw. I've never seen anything like that in real life. But yeah, he used that to cut off his head, and it was pretty brutal. What I liked about this scene is after they cut up the body and put it in bags and stuff, so they just kind of had a breather and sat down on the couch and just chilled there like they've had a hard day at work. I thought that was quite funny. One of the best things for me this season has been like the gory imagery that we've seen in previous episodes, and we didn't quite get as much of that in this one, but I would say the best shot in this episode was after Robert was beheaded and the blood just dripped down the floor into like a grid, into a drain, and I thought that was a really cool shot. So that was my favourite shot of this episode. And there's a lot of weird things that popped up in this episode which didn't really make much sense, but then again, this season really hasn't in a lot of ways psychologically. There's a weird version of Alice which looks like it's made out of paper mache, but it's like 10 foot tall and it's falling around, and I didn't find that scary at all, but I just thought it was really weird, and I wasn't really down with the idea of that because I don't really know the symbolism behind it. If anyone can hazard a guess of what that means with a paper mache 10-foot woman version of Alice. We also saw that Izzy is alive, or we think she's alive anyway, and she's still got all of this demon jizz stuff covered on her that the meat man put on her when he sacrificed her. We don't know what actually happened, but yeah, so she's up there running around. I'm not sure if the paper mache head thing is supposed to represent like Tweedledee and Tweedledum with the big heads, or Humpty Dumpty or something along those lines. If anyone can fill me in on what you think's happening with that, then yeah, go ahead. On the scene where Louise and Luke are on the couch and they're talking about what they're going to do, and Luke wants to go to his dad for help, and right at that point he was saying he trusted his dad, and I knew something bad was going to happen just because he was basically like letting him in on the secret, and at that point you kind of knew something bad was going to happen, in my eyes anyway. I thought that his trust in his dad was going to be his downfall, and I guess we'll find out what happened at the end of this. Meanwhile, beyond the veil of the door, Zoe is eating with the family, with Edie Peach and the brother. I can't remember his name, and his brother has a dislike for Robert, I'm not sure if he's jealous of him or because he's like the favourite son, but he doesn't really like Robert at all. Edie and the family are feeding Zoe a kidney ice cream sundae, which was pretty grim, to be honest, followed by a flake or a wafer made out of someone's ear. So Luke takes Robert's severed head to his dad, and this was another callback I thought was interesting. It reminded me of a Reanimator also. Once his dad saw the head, he basically just said, "Damn idiot," which to me made it like known that he was in on it, because he wasn't that surprised or shocked by it. He knew something was off with the peaches, or he didn't just like think he was a serial killer, so he knew something was up already. So I also already knew that was a red flag. So Luke and his dad take the body out to bury, and we get a little short discussion on what's actually been going on with Peaches and his dad and the police force. And this is something I mentioned in an earlier episode, why I think they've been on it for a long time, and we find out that it's because he's been basically cleaning up the dirt, the trash from Butcher's block, all of the drug addicts and stuff. They've been targeting them, so that's been like a win-win situation for the police. So he's been turning a blind eye to the law in order to just keep the peace in Butcher's block, which is something I could probably get behind, but not when they're cannibal killers who are just killing kids and sacrificing them. That's pretty bad. The way they were burying the body, they were burying it in the dirt, and then he threw the bag with the head in it, and this would give me a reminder of Army of Darkness with evil Ash's head in the bag. I was expecting the head to come alive and start talking as they were burying it, but it didn't happen. Maybe it'll happen in the next episode. So Alice finds 3 doorways. One of them leads back to where she came from. There's a second one which is just a big void, vast, smoky thing which we don't know what's in there. And the third door is this big, like, concrete, looks like a historic building, something you see in Rome or something. But there's 2 statues, and I'm pretty sure they were like bugs, like giant flies, so I don't know what the hell's going on there. If that's some kind of giant world, or if it's ruled by bugs or something, I don't know. So she decides to go through that one. She gets followed in there by the paper mache thing, and Joseph turns up and saves the day when it attacks her, and he stabs it and she dies. Before that, she gets touched by the monster, and Alice has like flashbacks of all these things, and the one that stuck out to me most is the red door. They kept showing this red door, which is something I'm pretty sure we haven't seen yet, so I think we're going to find out a bit more about that in the future. That probably has a lot to do with what's going on. I think whatever's behind the red door is probably the cause of all this, so it's probably going to be where the monster resides or something along those lines. Like I said, I thought this was going to be Luke's downfall, trusting his father, and sure enough it was. When they reached the site where they were burying the body, his dad just came up to him and slit his throat and pushed him into the hole, and this wasn't such a surprise to me because I expected something like that to happen with him trusting his dad. But it was very brutal the way it went down. It wasn't just like a slash and he was gone and he was dead. He was bleeding out for at least a couple of minutes on the scene, and it was actually quite like sad to watch. He was just dying out there on his own in the middle of nowhere with no one to like help him, and it was just a pretty grim death. If he's actually dead, we're not too sure. It's very likely we're left over with Louise going to the body, so maybe she should try and help him somehow, but who knows, maybe she'll turn him into a cannibal somehow with Robert's help, so who knows. And then the episode ends with Alice being taken by Joseph to the house to meet up with Zoe and the rest of the family, and she's obviously just doing it just because Zoe's the only thing left and she wants to save her, or she's just going to go with it just because she's the only thing that's important left to her. So that's how the episode ends. So even when she gets there, we see Zoe is the one who's trying to tell her not to join, which she's the one who joined in the first place. So I have a feeling that Zoe is probably going to be the one who has a change of character. Maybe she's going to become like the lead protagonist in the next episode. I know I've skimmed over a lot of details in this one, and I haven't really given like the best description of what really happened. So let me know what your thoughts are on the episode. I want to know your theories on some of the things that I've said and some of the things you might think is going to happen in the next episode. I'm sorry I had to cut this one a little bit short, even though it's probably longer than the ones anyway, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be doing part 5 hopefully as soon as it drops next week if I'm a bit better. So thanks for watching, I'll see you guys next time.